He's
going.
got it. He's got it.
This is the clicker thing. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, good evening. We are 1 minute late, so we'll better get started here. And we want to give the Rasmussens all of the time that we can for their presentation tonight. I just had the privilege of meeting them for the first time this evening, so I read a little bit about their ministry and share a little bit of that. Hopefully they will share as well more this evening. But they've been working over in East Africa, starting out in Tanzania, and mainly in a training role with various training courses there, and and they've also done some individual studies there as well. I think, Janice, you're finishing up a PhD program
In Kenya, yeah.
in Kenya, yes. So, but they've also had a significant role as part-time pastors or half-time pastors in a church here in the Twin Cities in St. Paul, a church that I've had a little bit of contact with, Bethel Christian Fellowship. And just this evening I was given a brochure by them that looks like it may be a very significant change, at least partly in their ministry, where the church there has called them to be the lead pastor, and they're going to be talking about that on Sunday. So I'm going to let them do the factual stuff as they go along through the program. I'm always very excited when I see something on culture shock, because it's one of those most important things. Those of you that probably, if some of you have never had any cross-cultural experiences, you have no idea what culture shock is. And so I'm hoping they will help us to understand it better and help you to understand how that impacts the people that you're sending out, the people that you're caring for from your churches, because it's a vitally important subject. I have taught it around the world in various places, and most of the people that you teach it to, if they haven't experienced it, have no idea that they will ever experience it. But it's real, let me tell you. So let me open in prayer for the Rasmussens, and then we'll turn it over to them, and looking forward to what you have to share. Father, we do thank you for the ministry that Steve and Janice have had through the years, many years in East Africa. And Lord, we know what the challenge of raising a family in that kind of a situation is. And Lord, the shock for the family there and the family coming back home is probably even greater. So Lord, we ask that you will help them to share with us the importance of the ministry that they've had, and help us to understand better the impact that going cross-culturally has on your workers. Thank you for their time. We pray that you will definitely be leading Sunday as they minister at Bethel, and that you will guide the congregation there and the Rasmussens in the decision that is made. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Arvid. I guess I'm going to start us off a little bit. Steve's been a little caught up with trying to get ready for this Candidate Sunday, and he just got a list of a couple pages of questions that the congregation want to ask him about everything from his views on, I don't know if it was pre-trib and all that, but anyway, theological stuff, how he's going to handle different cultures in the church, and anyway, so he loves talking about this stuff too, so we should have some fun.
I would like to ask a question following up his before we start. How many of you have been in a different culture, overseas, wherever, for 3 years, say, or more?
3 years.
Okay, so we're preaching to the choir. and how many of you have it? Okay. All right, we've got to have about half and half here.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're just going to share some of our story. our culture shock story, whatever you want to call it, adjustment, but knowing that it's common to a lot of people, our kinds of experiences, but also that everybody has their own kind of journey with it. So I wish we could kind of have everyone be able to share their own. But anyway, hopefully it'll be helpful. And then also some things about some of the theories about culture shock that some of you also probably know, but try to tie them in a little bit to our example. Steve has his PhD in intercultural studies from Trinity. He came back and did that a couple years when we were in Tanzania. So he's done a lot with that. I've been doing a lot with international students in Kenya and studying their experiences. And then just working with a lot of missionaries and him teaching missions at Africa International University. Also NAGS, you might have heard of it as. So anyway, we're going to just share a little bit, and hopefully you can glean a little bit, or we ask questions. We'll just kind of see what we can share together. Is this the first slide? Yeah? Okay. So one of the theories about culture shock, now there are debates about this, like most theories, like is it really true or not, but the U-curve theory of cultural adjustment has come out of the literature from, I think, Loss started with it, Ebert, there's different researchers who started with it. So it's basically an axis of how satisfied you are or how comfortable you are versus how long you've been in a new culture. Some of the charts also talk about how productive you are. So you could look at productivity too. But anyway, often it's kind of how you feel. So when you start out in stage 1, you're just going to a new place, you're excited, you're finally, you've done as a missionary, you finally got your funding together, you got everything packed, here you go. Excitement, then you get there and there's all this new challenge stuff happening. So you kind of have this lower level of maybe satisfaction. For us, we had to we'll tell a little bit of our story. But anyway, learning Swahili, learning new language, new culture, kind of a nosedive in both satisfaction, comfort, and probably also productivity. Then hopefully gradually you adjust and start on a little upward slope of we can survive here and actually be productive, be basically set up a life. So that's a theory. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it before. And so we're going to explain a little more about it from how we kind of experienced that. Some of you already know our story.
Jan doesn't like as many details, but let me give you a few more details. This is Ebert's version of it. So I don't ask people if they're in culture shock. I ask them if they want to go home. Because that's his line here. Do you want to go home or do you want to... And basically, we had been assistant pastors here at the church that we were just talking about Bethel Christian Fellowship, and it was not always easy being youth pastor, assistant pastor, but at this point, everybody loves you, and all the youth who've been, whatever, they say how wonderful you are, whatever, it's great. You finally, after 8.5 years, we're going, and then you go, and the first week it was pneumonia, and then the next week, we won't tell you about the flight. That was quite the thing. But then it was chickenpox, and then it was malaria, and then it was, so 40 times we were sick first year. So I want you to notice just a couple things. It takes time. So culture shock. Now shock is a bit of a misnomer because people go on a short-term mission trip, they say, oh, I was in culture shock, there's just always poverty. I said, no. A week, culture shock takes time because it actually came from people who were doctors and who were noticing that they were showing the symptoms of shock, like my leg just cut off, I had a serious wound and I can't think straight, I'm having all these difficulties. It's like that kind of going into shock. And it takes time, but it gets you to the adjusted bicultural person thing eventually. It's not quite that simple. Usually there's good days, there's bad days, and there's... So here's the picture he sent home in your postcard. This is what your missionary sent you, right? This is Kijireshi. We were there, and what you don't know is that everybody was throwing up for several days just before this picture was taken. Now it was Easter. We were pretty good. But, 40 times we were sick the first year. The second year we had a stillbirth, and then in that sometime I started having panic attacks and other kinds of things. And that's just actually not unusual. Pretty typical. In fact, Chester Wood, who was he said, here at Matt, he said, you're going out as sheep among wolves, you're probably going to get sick, you might lose a child. And, he was right. the Rasmussens are here. It's so great. They were walked with us through all these times. And another different time, wading through the mud to get to Kijireshi, have a little Thanksgiving celebration. So that's more what missionary life is like. Not what's on the prayer card, but a lot of transitions, a lot of moving, a lot of difficulties. So some people call it more culture fatigue than culture shock, because traveling is fun, adventure is fun, new things for a while. But then you just wish your socks were back in the drawer and people would do what they're supposed to do, and right, things would be normal. You ready to go from there? Is that enough?
Okay.
So I'll give you a little more. So after the stillbirth, we were pretty down, and life had kind of lost its luster. Part of the grieving thing. I think there's other kinds of shock or adjustment as well to widowhood, to moving, other kinds of suffering. But we got a hold of Piper. I'm here for my joy. I'm here for my joy, and it helped. But it was came back and we had twins. It was a great. Came back, I would say, bruised and confused, and we had some good loving by our church and some friends, and so people prayed perseverance into us the first term, and then there was some peace the next term, and then there was some joy and fruitfulness, and then God had other transitions. So go ahead.
The first term we came home, after losing that baby and being so sick, then I was pregnant, and he was preaching on Job. Like, we went around to all these churches preaching on Job, and I would just sit in the back and just cry through each sermon. And he said to me, finally said, if you don't want to go back, we don't have to go back. You know, the desire to go home. And I appreciated that he recognized that, you know, that he wasn't going to drag me back over there. I said, no, I think God wants us to go back, but I just don't have to
talk about it. That's
I don't want to talk about it yet. Give me a little space. And so then we had these twins, which they were such a blessing, you know, but they were also, in Tanzania, when you have twins, they say, Poli na hongera, sorry and congratulations. You know, kind of like, you know, I was thinking, now I'm going to go back, I'm going to have two sick babies all the time, because the one who was the most sick was Justin and I, my little baby. So I thought, oh my goodness, how am I going to keep 4 kids alive? You know, like, I mean, God can do it, but I just felt this responsibility to keep them from, you know, keep them alive and well. And anyway, so our pastor wisely said, our pastor was sort of our boss, because we were sent out of our church, Bethel Christian Fellowship, and some other sister churches. He said, why don't you go see a spiritual director? So I went to this older lady downtown Minneapolis, and just would meet with her about 4 times before we went. I think this was after the twins were born. They gave us a few extra months of furlough, and I just would go and cry and talk to her, and just kind of, I was like, I just want peace before I get, I know that we're supposed to go back. I just want peace before I get on the plane, that just whatever, not necessarily peace that everything's going to be perfect and we're going to be well, but just peace enough to go with these kids. And I did. I felt like I had that peace. And actually, I was also in my mind thinking, the first time we went, I didn't know any Swahili. We didn't have a house. We didn't have a vehicle. We didn't, you know, we knew nobody. So his brother was like a 2-day drive away, I guess. So I had all that in my mind, and when we went back, actually, like, oh, we actually have a community here. We know our Tanzanian pastor and his family, and, you know, the Bible school students, and so it actually felt more like going home than I expected, but it was kind of a hump to get over that. So anyway, that was if you pick up a few member care things there too, if you're looking for ideas, there were some things.
Better member care. We probably should have had some counseling so I could have dealt with my anxiety 20 years ago instead of carrying it over to.
He's still working on that. Okay, so culture fatigue, one thing with that is, we can't go into all this stuff right now, but basically the idea that at first when you go, the things that you see are the outside. Like this, if you think of this onion mouth, the outside things, you see the clothes, the dressing, that you learn the greetings in Swahili, you learn how people dress, you learn to eat whatever foods, then you think, okay, we're adjusting pretty well. Then pretty soon, you know, people are always coming late to everything, and you're like, I'm just getting tired of this, you know, or why are they, you know, anyway, different things start bugging you, you know, that just keep happening, and it just takes a while. I think a lot of you have experienced this kind of thing, but the idea that it's kind of, as you get deeper and deeper into the culture, you start realizing a whole different worldview and things that are different than you. You realize too how you were. I thought I was a pretty patient American. You know, I thought I'm pretty patient. Then you go to Tanzania, like, I'm a very impatient Tanzania. Like the bar is for Americans, patience is here for Tanzanians. You know, where I was starting was on a whole different part of the continuum. So you kind of, those challenges kind of keep settling in as the longer you're there. Some of you have experience. So that's kind of part of what we're talking about as culture fatigue, that sometimes you can be doing fine, you know, with the outside things, but they just catch you sometimes, especially like he was saying, if you're not remembering why you're there and thinking of, okay, God has, you know, this precious thing that we're here to do, you can kind of forget those things and get caught up in what's wrong with these people, you know, different bad attitudes that aren't very Christ-like, I would say. Okay, I want to just show another little graphic that Dwayne Elmer taught at Trinity Education Guy. He has this little, I kind of adapted his idea here, but this is very simplistic, so it's not, it's just a nice little graphic to show us a few basic ideas. So basically, if you send somebody from square culture to round culture, you can go, you send one square over there, or say a family, whatever. Hopefully pretty soon you start adapting, like Steve was teaching the Bible school in Tanzania, and he's hopefully learning some of their ways, their language, where they're at with their understanding of the Bible, learning from both people. Hopefully you're both learning some. But anyway, at least he eventually changes a bit, you know, maybe outside and maybe some inside things as well. And the longer you stay, I think he's becoming a bit more of the round culture, at least fitting in a little more.
So I'll give you an example of that. So I went, and the first time I taught in Swahili, people complained and said, please get a translator. I said, please be patient so I can, eventually, if I use a translator, I'll never get over this. So eventually people stopped complaining. Eventually they were compliments on my Swahili, right? So that's slowly. And then I went back, I came to Trinity for a couple of years, went back to do my research on, guess what I picked? Sickness and death, suffering. And so I was asking people stories about sickness and death after watching lots of kids around us die and so forth. And I realized that people are, every time somebody gets sick or dies, they want to know who did it. Who was the witch? So we're having discussions about, you know, it's the will of God. I thought we were talking about Calvinism and Arminianism, but no, we were talking about who's the witch. But I asked my friend, John Wansley, next door to me, I said, how come I never knew this? He said, well, you never asked. Well, of course I never asked, because that isn't a question we ask, right? Who made me sick? So, in other words, you can adjust and then you realize, whoa, there's a whole other level that I had no idea of, and then you find other levels that you, assumptions that you had no idea you were assuming.
And I'm sure there's still always more that you're learning. Yeah. You wonder what other
mistakes you're making. People ask me how long it took me to learn Swahili. I say, well, 22, 20, 30 years.
We're still learning. So anyway, just a little diagram. So then you go home, and then you're a different, shape. You don't quite fit in where you were before either. So it's part of this being in a different marginal culture, whatever, third culture.
Which we're doing right now.
And then actually we went to, 8 years ago, we moved up to Nairobi to what was then Nairobi Evangelical Graduate School of Theology. NEGS is now Africa International University. So quite an international culture. So you come there and it's even more, like this is Steve's missions department a few years ago. I was working with international students and trying to help them get adjusted, and they're like, so does the older person read it first or the younger person? Or would you go visit people, or can you tell each other's kids what they're doing wrong or not? Or they give us one thing if you're just going to a culture and try to fit into that culture. But on our campus, we had all these different cultures and people living together in the dorms and trying to figure out, what are the actual norms in this culture. So it was kind of another level of that. So everyone, going and changing, and then again changing each other too. I think we all what the international students told me when I would interview them was they were very transformed by being in this international culture, though it was very difficult. They learned a lot and broadened their whole perspective on life from people they were with. So,
And it's also very confusing. So we now are at this church, Bethel Christian Fellowship, which has 7 congregations, and the main congregation is probably majority minority, so maybe half white, and we're all confused about how it should be. And so these things also apply to international students who are here, they apply to refugees who come here, they apply to different people in different situations who are going cross-culturally. And you may notice that people who, when you welcome them as refugees at first, were so thankful and helpful. Oh, this is so great, we don't get shot at, you know. And then later things get harder. Yeah.
Whoops, so yeah, then also again, when that change square goes home, like our kids back here in college now are having to kind of do some of the adjustment back as well. Like they're used to this international school. They went to Roslyn Academy in Nairobi, and they're now in Chicago trying to figure out life there. So there's different.
These are now the twins. They're ones in purple. They're in Chicago at Northwestern University. And guess what? It's not like the missionary kids school that they were at, which was very international. But this is very different. And so they try to figure out where they are. Rachel goes to the Africa group, and she's the only white kid. Right? No, well, what are you doing here? And she says, well, where did you grow up? I grew up in Chicago, but my dad's Nigerian. Right? So none of the black kids actually grew up in Africa, but they're African. So where does she fit? Right?
They found a campus ministry that's mostly Africans and African Americans. That's the group they like to be a part of. So, and their church is much like our church in St. Paul. It's sort of interesting to see how they're trying to find their little niche. So anyway, I'm sure there are a lot more details we could share. There's things you could share. Let's just talk a little bit about what we can do, what the missionary might be going through, what you can do as a supporting person, some things we've found helpful. These are pretty basic, but just being aware of attitude and approach. So just listening. I think someone's doing a seminar on that actually. Just having someone who listens to you. That might even include like reading newsletters that they send out. Sometimes if even one person in the church reads a newsletter and writes something back, it's really encouraging to hear someone actually read that and is tracking with me. Or when we come home and someone says, say, what happened with those seminars you did, you know. And missionaries too need to communicate, right? We can't just send stuff out or send out these desperate prayer requests and never send back answers. We also are guilty of that. But communicating, listening. So that can be very helpful to know that, oh, someone out there, when I'm sending these into cyberspace, is actually listening and tracking. Observing, like for the missionary when you're first there, or if you go visit people, just observing what's going on around you. Going in as a learner. And you can encourage your missionary to do this. Like you're not going in to dump something on them. They're not going to, like in Tanzania, relationships are everything. So until you know people, know who their families are, spend time with them, it doesn't matter what you brought, you know, as far as knowledge of the Bible or anything. So being a learner, being a relational person. And one way to do that is to ask for help from them. I think sometimes as Americans we're kind of independent. We think we should be able to handle this, but it's actually when we have a problem and need to go to them for help. Like we had people coming to borrow stuff from us, and we're like, why don't they ever bring that back? You know, well, it's like, well, we'll bring it back when you need it worse than I do. You know, so like if they borrow something from you, you go ask for it back when you need it, or you go ask them for something that you need help from. So it's different in different cultures, but just trying to be more mutual and be part of them, and I think that's helpful. You can encourage your people in that. Trying to understand, see it from their point of view. That was really helpful for us to have some of our friends, Tanzanian friends, explain things to us and be able to just go to them and say, what? This, again, took a while because we didn't know Swahili. Steve knew some before he went because he had gone already. But being able to ask, why do people do this? What is behind this? And try to get, instead of just kind of thinking, this doesn't make any sense to me. Why would they do that? And sometimes missionaries who are already there, expats, can help you. But also sometimes missionaries can end up griping with each other about the national culture. So sometimes you need to just unload, but you have to be a little careful about the toxic, people who are really frustrated or have kind of isolated. It's not that helpful.
It's really helpful. We found that we had read this bonding rooster stuff about bonding the missionary task, which was very good. So we're trying to focus on missionary, relationships with nationals. We've got a house out away from missionaries with lots of other local people close to the Bible school. That was all helpful, but then we also realized we also need some friends, so we started game nights since we didn't have a car, so they could come to us. So you need a balance of those things, but also I think it's important to balance who you are with. So there's certain missionaries it was best for us not to hang around with and hear them great, and there are other missionaries who were really insightful and had spent years listening, and they say, well, you think of truth as a black and white thing. Here it's more of a spectrum. Could give some analysis that was very helpful. So I think it's really important who you listen to as well. And people who know enough to bridge over to you, local people who can explain some things, and who you can build trust with.
And in that case, we realized we needed some fellowship with some English speakers when we were trying to kind of be out there with only Swahili speakers. And sometimes we have our idealistic viewpoints of we're going to be this kind of missionary, and then you realize you actually you need to be practical and be able to survive, and also take care of yourself, take care of your family. So sometimes there's compromises on what your original idealistic thing was, or even maybe what your church thought. You should be doing this, this, and this. If your missionary isn't doing exactly what you thought, just taking time to listen and find out what's really going on and why. And sometimes if they have that time, like he was saying, the culture of grace, like that time to kind of adjust and be learning language and trying to make some friends, that they will be more productive than if they just feel pushed and are going to fry out on you quicker. So asking why questions, why you see them, things don't make sense, why are they doing that? What's going on? Why are they doing it? What's behind it? What's like Steve said with the witchcraft accusation things, we didn't even see that for quite a while. There's a lot of examples of that. Being humble, laughing. Of course, when you're learning language, you have to be able to laugh at yourself all the time, or you're never going to learn. So just you go out and I remember going to a wedding once, and we all had this matching fabric, and you go up and you dance up with the other women and bring your gift up, like the ladies group or a different family member. And so I saw these ladies going up, and they all had that fabric on, so I'm going up there dancing with them. Then I realized it was actually the family group. It wasn't the church ladies group they were overlapping identities. So here I was with all the family. I thought, oh well, I'm the silly white person. That's okay. I thought you can get yourself where you're so timid to try that you don't ever actually, you never get out there and do it. So you have to be able to kind of laugh at silly things you do and take risks like that. Go visit someone. Go to another village. It's okay.
You do need to find some safe people to share with. It's off the screen. But the Rasmussens were some of our safe people to share with. We were some of theirs. Because when we got team dynamics got too bad, they came into Mwanza and told us about how things really were. And there are certain people in the culture who it's safe to share with. We have enough trust with. And as missionary support people, you have to be some of those people. Maybe they can't talk to the senior pastor about how they're really doing. They need to talk to you. We have friends who are, their denomination, they can't have mental illness. It's not possible. So they don't have mental illness, but they do. That's a real issue.
We had to help them get counseling there because, they said, I can't go home and share with my churches that I have depression. And you think, that's pretty sad.
There's sick in other ways they can share. But okay. They should just have more Bible verses and be okay. So,
So this is a little bit on the approach. Again, Dwayne Elmer had this little diagram that I thought was kind of helpful. There's kind of the high road and the low road. And so the whole way on your journey of cultural adjustment, you can take the high road or the low road. And you can go, it's a little hard to see, but on the top is some of those things we just talked about with approach, trying to be open, be accepting, be trusting, so don't go in with a big judgment right away on this means that, or Otherwise, you go into being having fear, suspicious, being inflexible. Like my way is, I've come to bring you this thing, and so.
I want you to notice one thing on this thing, though. The cultural differences are there, and they are inevitably going to result in this middle: frustration, confusion, tension, embarrassment. That is inevitable. So part of it is how you're going to approach it and what choices you make when you get there. Whether you choose to observe and listen and inquire, which can result in rapport and understanding, or whether you're going to choose to criticize, rationalize, withdraw, say Africa wins again, etc.
And especially, I don't know if all places are as relational as East Africa, but if, like we're in our denomination in Tanzania, when we were leaving, someone said, all the missionaries leave angry. Why do they all leave angry? Except you guys haven't left, and Steve was like, all the missionaries left angry? What do you mean? And they were things that, anyway, they had left an image in this particular church. It was not so many missionaries, but the way they saw relationships and mending relationships and saying goodbyes real well, and that was all so important that whatever ministry they had done was, in retrospect, colored by that image at the end of how them leaving angry.
What was interesting was the missionaries told me how unholy the Africans were because of some things with money or some things with sex or whatever. They hadn't disciplined properly. And so they left and didn't say goodbye well. Years later, the local Tanzanians tell me, why did the missionaries all leave angry? It makes sense. Okay, leaving angry, not saying goodbye well, that's a really big sin. So what happened? Both of them thought the other people were really sinful and unholy, right? And had no idea of the log in their own eye.
And sometimes we don't even know, the relational choices we're making and how those are seen by others. So it's tricky business. But just in general paying attention to relationships and learning what their signals are for relationships, and I think is important. So, okay, of course, cultural differences. You've probably heard about a lot of these. Time versus event. So do we get there at 11, or do we get in our church, our pastor used to say, okay, we're all going to meet at 2 o'clock to come and clean the church, or, you just kind of use the sundial, or, after we get the church ready, then the wedding will start, which may be anywhere from 10 to 3, just kind of being aware that things are on different value bases. So relationship, is it more important that you get along or that you get the thing done quickly? Or you've probably seen a lot of these different values. So just to be aware that sometimes when you're frustrated about something, it can help you look back at, they're coming at it from this value base instead of that one. So I won't spend a lot of time on those because it's not the main focus. But expectations, I think, have a lot to do with how things go, and sometimes I think we can build up expectations, and that can make it harder when we get there. So just being patient with ourselves, being patient with the people around us, being patient with our family members, being patient with our missionaries, realizing things take time, so don't be in a rush. And then sometimes if there's a big change happening, it can help you to just consider, well, how different is this from home? How many changes has this person had lately? How much control do they have over the choice or the change? Or like if someone has a big issue happen suddenly, it's going to be a lot harder for them, or they've had 3 big issues happening, like say they got broken into, and they had a new baby, and their head pastor was thrown out of the church. You can just have...
It's a very typical thing in this culture adjustment time is you have a pile of them. So one of my favorite chapters, Paul Hebert's Anthropological Insights for Missionaries, is a chapter on culture shock I've read many times. In there he has a list of, 18 things and the scores on them that can make you sick, whatever. And, early March we went through 15, 15 out of 18. So no wonder we were sick, besides meeting new parasites.
Give you a little perspective, yeah. And just recognizing that performance might be lower when you're in the big dip of the U curve, to give yourself some time and space and maybe a little time away, or... that's Steve likes his little formula here.
I like that. Sorry. R minus E equals H. So reality minus expectation equals happiness. I think it was actually the Buddha that came up with it first. But so what you expect, if you expect you're going to be an amazing missionary, and because you're a missionary, you're not going to be really productive, and actually you could barely get through the day and get the chicken made, you're not going to be very happy. And if your congregation likewise expects you to spend a year on language and culture learning, and we don't expect you to get anything done, but actually adjust, then if you actually do that, great. If they expect you to win 100 people to Christ in the first couple years, it's hard to be effective. So reality minus expectation equals happiness, I think, is something we can keep in mind. Just try to keep our expectations realistic.
So yeah, just a reminder of the culture adjustment curve, and expectations might be different at different levels for both of yourself if you're adjusting and how you might be feeling. Sometimes it helps if you have a missionary on the phone or a friend saying, "Oh, everything just seems so awful," and you remind yourself, okay, how long have they been there? And the time frame on this varies, but some people say, like, if you've have a term of 3 years or so, at about a year and a half, or 6 months to a year and a half, tend to hit the bottom there, depending on how many differences and what all has happened. So just being aware, like sometimes we'll hear from people and think, oh, they're at a really hard time with cultural adjustment. So just, it gives you a little bit of, not to just put that on them, but can help put it into perspective that, okay, this might be the bottom and hopefully things will be getting better.
Thinking about ourselves, having been back here 6-7 months, and our kids having been back here and crying, our daughter's crying on the phone for her first year of college. But this is culture shock for her. She did not grow up here. It's not even reverse culture shock. It's a new culture, and so there's a lot to deal with.
So for support, I think for missionaries, we didn't have a lot of formal missionary care. In our case, we were sent out by our church, but we found on-field support, like just friends who helped and listened to us, and that was a real blessing to us. And then people back home were praying for us. We knew that. They would check in with us. We didn't have like much email or whatever in those early days, but letters, or even in later years, when they would like let our kids stay with them during breaks, or help send something in for taxes, or help us find a place to stay when we came back, or lend us a car. Just a lot of practical things that sometimes if you just ask them what they need, that's very helpful, when you're coming and going. Or one of Steve's colleagues from Korea, he's the only child, and his aging mother is back in Korea, and he has an elder, a pastor in his church, who basically takes responsibility for looking after his older mother. So that kind of thing enables him to be doing what he's doing, teaching about reaching Muslims in Nairobi, where if he wasn't doing that, I don't think his colleague could be there.
I want to mention this blend of on-field and local support, because it really needs to be a blend. There needs to be some. So we have seen some missionaries who pretty much stayed in their house, were on Skype, knew when everything was happening back at their church at home, and never really learned language, never really got out, and after 4 years they were done, right? Because they had to be able to adapt. So you need to get local people who support you, local nationals, missionaries, whoever, as well as some people back home who you can really share with, and keep a balance of that. We're trying to remind our kids that now we're on Skype all the time with their friends from high school, that hey, you have to get out of the dorm too. So that kind of balance is important to encourage.
I just thought something else that my mind went out.
The spiritual disorientation piece, this can come with some spiritual disorientation. Even if you read the Psalms, some of them look like culture shock, a good U curve from praise you and oh my goodness, and then, but you believe there is kind of that pattern as well.
Okay.
Keep moving.
Yeah, let's see. So a lot of these things we're talking about just involve some losses, and I think it helps to take time to grieve. When you first go over, like just missing the daily contacts, the daily life you left, sometimes missing, like I missed my mom's 70th birthday, that was hard, or a certain wedding you missed, or funeral. That can be a time when missionaries might need a little encouragement, or at least knowing that somebody, it's not like when my sister was in Nepal, I was able to go to her husband's sister's funeral and represent her kind of, if you know someone can represent you, or they go and they send you the video, or they at least say sorry about whatever to you, you know, to just acknowledge that you're missing it and you're sad where you are too, or that kind of thing. Loss of identity. When I went over, I was working in Ramsey County with the University of Minnesota. I was assistant professor. I was my own person, and then we started itinerating, and I became Steve and his wife. No one really knew me, and his church is growing up. So you kind of lose, when you go overseas, I think you lose some of your identity, or like your first name. Even in Tanzania, they wouldn't call me Jan. They would call me Mama Hannah or Mother of Twins. Or, you know, you become a different person.
White person.
In a certain way. Yeah, white person. So that's kind of something that can take a while to get used to. Now I kind of miss being called Mama Hannah, but at first you're like, I just wish somebody would call me by my name, you know, or you know, the kind of life identity that you had back then that you know, no longer really, you still are who you are, but it doesn't really feel like it when everyone around you is calling you something else. So that can be a loss. Or with us, not knowing Swahili at first, you know, not even be able to really go to the market and buy food, or you know, express. I remember going to a funeral for the first time and being able to sit and chat with the mother about losing her child in Swahili, and just being able to kind of comfort her and hear her story. That was like a big step. I was like, wow, I was able to connect a little bit here. And I don't remember how many months in that was, but it takes time. Not knowing the meanings, not knowing what's appropriate. You know, what do you wear to something? What do you say when you're standing up front and have to give greetings, or, you know, just little things. How do you teach in the Bible school here? Issues of safety and security. In Nairobi, we have a lot of those issues. You know, how careful should you be? Because some people will tell you, don't have you go out of your place, or, you know, but you're there to live there. So how to balance those things? Be tricky, and who to listen to. You could get yourself listening to all the State Department warnings, and you would never do anything, you know, but just reminding yourself to be realistic, but be cautious, but not living in fear. And then one thing happens in Michigan, a lot of other people move away. Every year in Kwanzaa, we hear, who's leaving this year after the school year? So that was a sad thing, of how many of your expat friends would be moving away. Then some losses might be what Pauline Boss at the U of M talks about, ambiguous loss, where they're kind of hard to put. You can't really. It's kind of like when you have lost a son in the war and their body was never found. Some of the losses are kind of like that, where something's just not right, but it takes a while to even express it or figure out what it is that you're missing.
Or people are gone. You have friends, but they're gone for a year for furlough, or they're back and forth and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So. Okay, saying goodbyes, I don't know, there's a lot of goodbyes. Some are to people and communities, some are more to places. They say for missionary kids, sometimes it's very important to say goodbye to the place where they are, even be able to go back and see the place. Your identities, I mentioned some of that stuff. Packing up, security, finances, okay. I don't know if have you heard about the raft? I think this is Ruth Van Inken who talks about building a raft before you leave. This could be before missionaries leave the first time, or if you're leaving later. That there's 4 steps that are helpful that the RAFT stand for. The first is reconciling, making sure that you've made peace as much as it depends on you with everybody in that, like we were talking about in Tanzania, like those people maybe didn't know, but making sure that you try to leave without unfinished business or extra baggage to as much as you can. Affirming, saying what you've appreciated, thinking about who you've appreciated in this place, and affirming the things that have happened there that you'll take with you, that hopefully you've left, celebrating, saying farewells, telling people how much you appreciate them, and goodbyes, and then thinking about the next thing, thinking destination. There's a lot more written on that, but it's just kind of a little process that, what's that? Okay. You get that? People are writing down. Ruth Van Rinken, I'm trying to remember the book where that comes from, but
we
can send the PowerPoint too, yeah.
PowerPoint, whatever.
Re-entry is another whole phase that we might be facing soon, so we don't know a lot about this. We haven't come back to live for 22 years. Some of you guys have. But people say that it's just as tough as the original culture adjustment. So it's something to look forward to everyone who's well settled overseas. So anyway, I can't say a lot about it because I haven't yet had to.
That's the
Be
thing
aware.
to look forward to is, but I think it's important to realize when people come back. We're finding this ourselves. So to give a little explanation, this Sunday is a candidating Sunday for us to be lead pastor of the place that I started full-time 25 years ago. That I've been their missionary for 22 years. We're still going to do a quarter time there. That's the idea. If 2 weeks from now they decide to have us. But where we notice is a lot of people are like, great, you're here. Isn't it nice to be home, right? Not realizing that, and we say, well, we might need to go back and pack up. Oh, really? We came with 2 suitcases. There's some stuff back there that we need to deal with. So people don't realize all that's back there. And so as people are coming to you, realize that they may not be as happy as you think they should be to be home. And their kids especially may not be as happy as you'd expect them to be home.
Might
Because
not
they're
be
actually
home.
a culture shock. Again.
It's not really home to them. So
Exactly.
yeah. I think that's enough for now. One thing to think about if you're a member care person. One thing we appreciated was people coming to visit us. Like we had our family come different times. We had our pastor come once or twice. But I just want to caution you a little bit. We had a team come once too, which we were ready for it. Sometimes people want to come and visit their missionary immediately. Or like one of our missionary friends, the pastor, would come like every few months. And I think he thought he was being helpful, and maybe I don't know, maybe it was, but actually hosting people on that side it's great, but it takes quite a bit of energy sometimes, especially if people don't know the language and, just getting everybody kind of tuned in to what's expected here. So I'd like to just say with visiting, and it's a little hard if you're in charge of a missionary and you ask them, should we come and visit? Ask it in a way that they can kind of say yes or no or when would be good instead of just, should we come? It's a little hard to say, well, this isn't really a good time, or, do you know what I'm saying? I don't know how to say this delicately, but sometimes if people get a lot of visitors and it can take away some energy from the ministry they're trying to do, because they're putting that energy into taking care of their visitors or setting up programs, almost travel agenting kind of for their visitors. So I just want to throw that out as we actually didn't have a lot of expectations about a ton of visitors coming, but I saw some other missionaries that I thought it was actually taking so much energy. So some of them were coming out to really support and help, and just to kind of know where that is and what the missionary needs at that time and what would be most helpful to them. And how can you visit?
Also to be clear, if what's really expected. So a lot of people come hoping that you will provide for them a good experience, that they can feel like they were valuable and noble and go back and report on it. Rather than some of the missionaries we really enjoyed were people who were friends and family and came and sat at breakfast and listened to our story and went to places with us, and this is the people, and got to know people. And now when we come back, those people are great support because they know what we're talking about and they can picture where we are. So that coming to listen and to experience can be more helpful than coming to help. And then one last point I want to make, a trend that I'm seeing. Ralph Winter called it the re-amateurization of missions, with a number of factors. But basically, if it takes this much work and difficulty, not just, first of all, to get to the field, right, you have to raise support, you have to maybe do some training, etc., then to actually become effective. And before we went to the field, we noted, people would leave the field with, oh, that's a tragedy. Now I think it's a miracle. They're still there. How did that happen? Because most people left within one term. So when people have experience, value those people and support them. And that's what this is all about. If you can value, support, encourage, train, help the people who have made it this far, who have some language, who know some people, who are able to be productive, that's so helpful. Now, it's easier to get excited about the young person who wants to go. and who's right there with you in the church, right? Versus the person who, they're over there, I think they're doing something important, I don't know what it was. So value them, encourage them, maybe give them a raise, you know? I mean, we've been giving $100 to this missionary for how long? How much money do they really need to live on? All kinds of things you could do to value and encourage them. But it's a long-term marathon. That all of this adjustment is worthwhile. We should get to the worth it slide.
Okay, I don't know. Oh yeah, let's skip that. Okay, we just had a bunch of stuff we could cover.
Cultural adjustment disorients hard work, humble, can build character and draws us to God. It's worth it.
This quickly became at least my favorite verse over there, which I hadn't paid much attention to the verses about suffering before we went over there. But this one, we rejoice also in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, hope. And that hope will not disappoint us, like he was talking about. Hope is a place, hope is a person. It's Jesus, and it's just giving us hope each day. So I think...
and we do then see the world and ourselves and God working in new ways. It's an incredible opportunity and experience to be able to see the world and the Word of God from different experiences and have people praying for you and be able to be part of something. It is worth it to go through all this. Because you do become an adjusted bicultural person. Your kids think those great friends of ours who are doing the work in Tanzania now are great people. And our kids have a unique view on life. And they've become amazing people. And part of it is having to live and think critically between all those different experiences. So it is worth it. God does things in us and increases our trust in Him, which is above all worth it, right?
Let's stop there. And are there any questions or comments? Maybe some of you have something to share or something to ask or one another. We're not experts on this. Yeah.
If you want to reach out to TCKs, what do you think what are some of the most helpful things, just as a person who was near them or has contacted them that would be meaningful to them? I know it's probably different for each person, but...
Right. TCKs, how to reach out to TCKs.
Meaning third culture kids or missionary kids or people who live between worlds.
Right. I think, like, our kids, appreciate someone just trying to get to know them and hearing some of their story, their back, where they're from, like what life was like for them there. Sometimes they have very practical needs if their parents aren't around, like I mentioned. That was very meaningful to some of my kids to have a place to stay on a break or have someone pick them up if they didn't have a car and had to go wherever. Just practical things like that. But I think feeling they often don't feel... I'm not an expert. I read a few books on it. There are some good books on there, like the Resilience... there's a book on, do you guys remember the name of the book?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah, books. If you look up books on TCK, there's some good ones by David Powell and Ruth Bennington. I think they don't often feel like they quite fit in. Like my kids, they went to some of the Christian ministries on their campus, and they're like,
they're so American.
Yeah, I just feel too American. I'm like, well, but to them, like that is something. They want to feel like they're with other kids who've been other places. So
they also checked out various churches, but the one they ended up at has a Swahili service and a Cambodian service, and they were invited for a meal about 7 weeks in a row when they went to this church. So they feel like they're part, they're people. And so a lot of it is just even listening to this strange place that they're part of. If you can let them actually tell you about it instead of saying, where are you from? And they're like, it's a long story.
Their stories, and even making the food that they grew up with, maybe, or having people over. My kids think it's great. They get together with other friends and make chai and chapatis, that kind of a thing, like the food, and that brings up the conversation. So it's just a bridging. Does some other people have ideas for reaching out to
One other
TCKs?
piece I'd like to mention related to third culture kids. We often think of them as some of the research relates to all the trauma they went through and all the moving back and forth and all the hard things. Bob Priest, who I worked with, and who was a missionary kid, said, I don't think it's that so much. And he did this research that pretty much proved out it's really just cultural competency,
Yeah.
culture capital. They don't know what the TV shows are that they're supposed to be talking about and which jokes to laugh at and who the Vikings are. Anyway, my kids were coming back to Chicago and they were going to go to school with Michael Jordan's kids, and they're like, "Who's Michael Jordan?"
A little
So
embarrassing. Yeah.
those
yeah.
kinds of things make them then feel out and kind of, and so.
But they might not care about those, so they might want to get into a deep conversation about something, so,
But again, I think it's partially cultural adjustment for them.
right.
That makes it a
That research he did, there were kids who had had traumas in dorms, sex abuse, but they were about the same amount as the population here had those kind of traumas happening to them that happened to be MKs. So it's not that MKs didn't have some big issues, but it wasn't a huge out of proportion number that had those things happening to them. That all MKs are going to be traumatized, whatever. So
Let me say one thing on behalf of MKs. Okay, and here's part of when we went, everybody was like, "What are you going to do about your kids' education?" I mean, they're little, right? But they're like, "I don't know. We'll have to probably send them to maybe we'll homeschool them. I guess I don't know what else we'll do." And all these horror stories about what's going to happen to them. Well, our kids actually did pretty well, and they came back and they went to McAllister College, and they used that "how do I be a missionary" thing to figure out this weird liberal place and how to be a Christian there and how to grow the campus ministry and lead that when they were there. And so, and they've been able to do, and the other ones are at Northwestern. They got an education that was okay. So they're pretty cool kids. And I'm pretty grateful that God led them through that, including the difficulties, and made them learn to depend on God. And here's one thing that it was really hard on the first term, and I thought, so many people said, kind of this attitude that, well, you can only put up with so much, right? I mean, how much can God expect of you, right? But going back and saying, no, this is what God has asked us to do. So that our kids got the idea, we do whatever God asks us to do. And however hard it is, that's just what we do. How valuable is that for their lives? And if we had said, we do almost everything, but sometimes it's too hard, what would they learn from that for life?
I had the great privilege of overseeing about 200 missionaries in 19 mission locations in Latin America over a number of decades. And during that time, I saw about 200 missionary kids grow up. They came from about 8 different nationalities, so it wasn't just from the United States. I look back at those kids right now, and about 200 kids, I can think about 2 that are now walking with the Lord today. That's it. And so as I see personal statistics, I think that if you had that kind of statistics in our churches here in the U.S., we'd call that success.
Yeah.
I thought I was ruining my kids when I took them, I thought, it's so sad we're taken away from family and our son of life here. And they're like, oh, thank goodness you didn't raise me in Minnesota. I'm like, what's wrong with Minnesota? There's one more question or comment here, then I think in our time.
I was just going to say that my understanding is that this culture progression accommodates whatever time. If you're on a 10-day mission trip, a 3-month mission trip, a 3-year, or decades, it does accommodate. I mean, on a 10-day trip, you can have the euphoria, honeymoon, dip down, and it can be for the exact same thing. You come into Africa and you're meeting and shaking hands with every single person after the worship going, oh my gosh, this is fantastic. I should take this home. We should do this. And then 2 days later, it's, oh my God, I have to shake every single person's hand. How many diseases am I getting right now? And the very thing that you can rejoice about can be the very thing that's your fatigue. But it is accommodated, I think, regardless of the timeline. And when you're doing long-term, that's 6 months, and it could be 4 hours into a short term.
Yeah, right.
One thing, like we said, it definitely does go up and down, and some days, if you've been there long term, it goes between those two things. But one thing I have noticed is, I was just talking to my son Justin, who's in Uganda now doing public health research, they had a psychologist coming out trying to figure out why everybody is like quitting after 2 years. You know, a lot of them don't expect to stay that long, but they just, you know, they burn out and they're gone. And like, how could we get them to, I was like, how long has the psychologist been there? Has he ever been to culture shock? So one thing I noticed though is that people who leave in the middle of culture shock, they seem to never quite get over it sometimes. They feel like, because they never quite got to be adjusted by cultural people, and they feel bad about somehow, and they somehow want to go back and finish. And I don't know. I don't know if others have noticed that, but I've sometimes seen that people don't seem to complete the and that kind of hangs on. I don't know.
Okay, it's America, so we need to finish on time. I'm learning this, but we'll be around if you want to chat. Thanks for staying. I know it's late on a Friday night. I'm impressed that you guys are here. Thanks for staying and listening and sharing.